Hi, everyone. My name is Becky Robinson. I'm the founder and CEO of Weaving Influence, and I am so thrilled to be today with Dr. Marcia Reynolds. Wow, that didn't come out so smoothly. How are you today, Marcia?
Oh, it's a good day. It's beautiful in Arizona.
I'm so glad to hear. So as you're coming in this morning, we want to greet you and welcome you and invite you to find the chat panel. And when you find the chat panel, what we invite you to do is please use the drop-down menu to select all panelists and attendees so that as you talk with us today, everyone can hear your comments. And I have my typical daily prompt, which is, what are you grateful for today? Marcia, would you take a moment and share with us something that you're grateful for today?
Well, I am grateful for where I live in this beautiful state that has great weather and reminding me daily that spring is here and spring will come every year.
Wow, that is a great reminder. I am actually not patiently waiting for warmer weather here. And I am glad to be back with you. So thanks to whomever is saying that they're glad to see me back. I will have some colleagues filling in for me on the Daily Connection throughout our series. For those of you who don't know, we are broadcasting every weekday from now until April 16th with different guests each day, and we look forward to you joining us. As you're coming in, we do want to take a quick moment. I had a fun poll idea for today. I'm going to put a poll up on the screen. I happen to live in the state of Michigan, and we, as of midnight, are on a stay-at-home order. I'm curious, if you're calling in today, are you living in a state or a country that has a stay-at-home order? Yes or no? Curious to see how that influences your desire, willingness to participate in events like this, and how you're faring out there. So if you can take a quick moment to answer the poll, I'll let you know what I'm seeing. And then we'll dive in. And as we're waiting to get started, I want to quickly introduce Dr. Reynolds, in case you're not familiar with her. Marcia is a master certified coach and an author, and she's known as a master coach around the world, where she teaches at different coaching schools in 4 different countries. One of my favorite things ever is when you, Marcia, share pictures when you're in Russia. It's breathtaking. And Marcia happens to have a new book coming out this summer called Coach the Person, Not the Problem, a guide to using reflective inquiry. So I'm going to quickly end this poll. It looks like about 80% of you who are participating on today's call are living in a state or country with a stay-at-home order. So on one hand, that's encouraging as people are taking steps to be safe. So glad to see all of you. I'm going to go off camera and invite Dr. Reynolds to share her slides and share with you on her topic today. And I'll be back at the end, and we'll have some time for questions and interaction again.
Okay. And do I need to hit record, or you've done that?
We're all set with the recording.
Okay, great. So I am not in Sedona, but I love the picture, so I'm sharing that today. And let me get my slides. Okay. So, I don't know how many of you were afraid of the dark when you were a kid, but part of that was, what we imagined, whether it was real or not, and oftentimes not. But they take over, and we act as if they're real. And right now we are all facing some very grim realities. That VUCA term is an understatement. The volatile, uncertain, chaotic, ambiguous. It's truly an understatement right now. But it is up to us on how we set our mood and our outlook, and how we continue that and keep that moving forward. As I said, I was hiking yesterday, and the cactus are blooming, and that the flowers that come out between the thorns, I think is a good metaphor of what we're facing right now. So when we look at what makes the dark so scary, the less we know for sure, the more we imagine the worse and believe it exists. We have this thing called a negativity bias, where it's always, when we don't know what's going to happen, we see the worst. We tend toward the worst case scenario. There is such a thing as a positivity bias as well, where people only see the bright side, but we know that's dangerous too, that we have to right now take care of each other and not be unsafe. And so there is kind of a common ground that we want to find. in looking at how to deal with our days. So we don't have fear taking over the foreground, but not pretending that it doesn't exist. But the truth of it is, as Einstein says, reality is an illusion, although a very persistent one. So the question is always, what is it that I'm creating in this moment? What do I know to be true? But what is it that I'm making up? So there is truth. And then there's what we choose to focus on that truly makes the difference in the moment. This is where our emotional intelligence skills truly come into play at this moment. But I love this quote by Carl Sagan. He says, when we have strong emotions, we're liable to fool ourselves. So again, we're wanting to look at both an internal awareness. What is going on in my brain that's making me feel this way and focus on these things? But we also want to look at what's the impact I'm having on others. Because we all know that our emotions are much more powerful than our words. And the stories that we're sharing are either going to lift people up or make things darker. So I want you to try this. If you were to close your eyes and just quiet your mind and just have your mind go blank and think of nothing. Nothing. Don't let anything pass through. If you have thoughts, just let them float out of your mind. Now, think about something. What was your first thought? How did that thought make you feel? This is what we call activating your observer mind. When you can stop and actually look at your thoughts and your feelings as if they were external and you held them out in your hand and said, that's my thought and it's causing me to feel this way. This is when we have control. We activate our observer mind. What happens with psychological stress that a lot of us are going through is that we think we don't have control. We let the thinking mind overpower the observing mind. So right now, the one thing we don't want to give into is resignation and hopelessness. I remember working for a company that was near bankruptcy, and fortunately, we turned it around in a few years. But the thing that we knew that people couldn't lose was hope. It's like you can lose things in your life, but if you have even a shred of hope, you can move forward. When you lose hope, then things fall apart. So what we're looking at is what is it that we can continue to shift our focus on, knowing that tomorrow the sky will be out there, we will get through this, and the best thing we can do is to get through this together. Because defeatism is contagious, but we have this amazing capacity as human beings to observe our thinking, and this means that we can change together. One of the things, though, that I love about coaching is that this isn't an easy thing to do on our own. If you read Daniel Kahneman's book, Thinking Fast and Slow, and Michael Gazzaniga is a neuroscientist that talks about, do humans really have free will? That we don't, as humans, stop and think about our thinking very well. And even when we do, we rationalize whatever we're thinking and we're doing to make it okay. That we often need an external disruption. So my last book was called The Discomfort Zone. And, I talked about how disruption in our thinking often doesn't feel good, but it's what opens us to see other possibilities. It opens us to learning. So one of the best ways to create this external disruption is an external person. And that's often where coaching comes in. But even, a trusted friend, won't commiserate with you, but will ask you about how do you know what you're saying is true, what else is possible, to help us to truly look outside of ourselves. So one of the things in my new book, Coach the Person, Not the Problem, is to remember we're not trying to solve the external problem, because I don't know who can right now. That's what we're struggling with. But I can help people to help them focus and to widen the stories that they're telling. And in the book, I talk about the person who coined the term reflective inquiry. So it's not just about asking questions. It's about also just letting people hear their thinking. So when I summarize and paraphrase what you're saying, so you can actually see your stories, then you can hold them out and see what's the gaps in logic, what's the old beliefs that you're holding on to, what's your assumptions about the future that you don't even know. The person who coined this term was an educational reformer called John Dewey, and he wrote a book in 1910 called How We Think, where he defined this term. So reflective inquiry and coaching actually came out of education. We keep saying it came out of therapy, but actually, I've been a behavioral researcher and with a master's in education, and that's where I was introduced to Dewey and his work. So I totally recommend him. He said that reflective inquiry allows us to climb a tree in our brain so we can look down on our thinking and truly see what else is possible. So what we're asking people to do is to really look at, what are you listening to on a daily basis? And I know you can't shut off the news, but how are you interpreting it? How are you taking it in? Is it scaring you, or are you using it for information? What are you focusing on? What are you believing about the right now and the future? Can you rise above the fear? So coaching is truly about looking at our stories. What I love about this is that, our brain is a box of stories. I remember learning 30 years ago at school that we remember, we lodge our memories as pictures and we bring them up, but then we change them every time we bring them up. But our memories are truly little stories. And these stories direct our lives and direct our thinking today. So oftentimes they're based on something that happened in the past. But we want to take a look at our stories. What's the story that we're telling? So I always allow people, first off, just to tell their stories, because this directs who I think I am and how I see the world. But then we want to get to, what are the things that are shaping the stories? And that's beliefs about the present moment and assumptions about the future. So I want to really look at, what is it I'm believing right now, and how do I know that's true? What is truth? And what is it? What is speculation? But what am I assuming about the future that I have no idea if that's true? And fear and these horror stories that are being spread really taint our stories, and they tilt the truth we see in the present and the possibilities of the future. So we can help each other to hold these out and look at them, and truly determine, do we need to widen the frames of our stories? It was Richard Boyatzis who says we can't see beyond the box until we actually see the box. So we see our stories, and then how do we see beyond that? So can you change the story you're focusing on? And most importantly, can you stop the fear? So in emotional intelligence, the whole purpose is to notice what I'm feeling in the moment, and then to choose what to feel next. So we don't try to stop our thoughts and emotions, because they're there. They just occur out of what's happening around us. But then we can choose what comes next. We can choose what to focus on and what to feel in the moment. And knowing that the greatest fear is the fear of the unknown. Brain doesn't like to not know. It's a meaning-making machine. And so it makes us crazy when we don't know. But yet, in truth, what is it that we can actually possibly do know for sure. Not a lot. So we start with understanding, where do we feel fear? Where do you feel fear? Where's the tightness? Is it in your face? Is it in your body? Is it in your fingers? You know, of course, it's often in our stomach, our chest, our shoulders, but the quicker we can feel it and find it in our body, the quicker we can breathe, release it, and then choose, what is it that I want to feel? You know, and if we can do this in 6 seconds, we can actually stop the adrenaline from the fear and come back to some serotonin that create a well-being throughout our body. That's why I like to go outside and walk, because it helps me to create the good chemicals in my body. So for years, I've been teaching this in my book, Outsmart Your Brain. 20 years ago, I worked with a number of athletes to find out, how do you get in the zone? And we came up with this routine that when you notice you're tight and you're afraid, first, as I said, breathe, clear your mind, center yourself, which is the center of your body, right below your navel. Put your awareness here. And then choose, what is it you want to feel in this moment? How many people are around you supporting you? How grateful do you feel? And what hope can you feel? So remember, yes, there's always disease and death, but what is it we need to feel each day? And can we even move to laughter, which is the quickest way to activate serotonin and the dopamine in our body? And can we compose poems and appreciate the trees? So, you know, here's an exercise where you can describe a situation and really look at, what is it you're feeling? But what's causing you to feel like this? And where are you holding this tightness in your body? What would you like to feel instead? So in coaching, I'm always looking at, what is the desired outcome? Where are we going? What is it you want to create to help people get out of being stuck in the story now to creating the future? Can you imagine? What can you imagine that will help you to shift? And if you doubt this, listen to the times you say but. Because but, whatever you're saying after but, is defining what you're most afraid of. So can you eliminate but? And just stay with what's possible? What reality can you work on creating now? So there's also all the great distractions we have. You know, them right now, there's things that we can enjoy. Don't just sit at your computer as much as you can. Get up, move around, play an instrument if you like that. Go outside if you can. I recognize some of you can't. But read a good book, call an optimistic friend, watch great webinars that lift your spirits, go watch funny videos. I am about to put out a blog post about how to bring more laughter into our day after getting a wonderful video from my clients in China about fun in quarantine and what they're doing to entertain themselves. So look for that. My website's covisioning.com, and I'm putting out that blog post today. But the other thing you can do is serve others. Serve others. When we step out of ourselves and we're of value to other people, you know, we also can step out of our stories feeling fulfilled by what we're doing to serve. Overrides feeling helpless. The food banks right now are crying for volunteers to help if you're not an at-risk and can go out. You know, and I also know people that live in neighborhoods where they're finding those that have to stay at home, that those that don't have to are asking, or at least if they can go to the grocery store, do you need anything at the grocery store that I can give you? I know one of my friends, they have chickens in their neighborhood and they're sharing fresh eggs. And if they cook, you know, stews, they cook a little bit more and share that. Of course, we want to be careful about safety in this time, but how are we serving and helping each other get through it? Because just knowing that people are there and helping us, it just feels so good. You know, here in Phoenix, we are getting out. We have a lot of space, so we can practice social distancing while hiking, and everybody's so friendly out on the street. You know, we wave. Instead of a handshake, we put our hands on our heart, and it's such a nice feeling that we're here to support each other. So far, we aren't fighting in the grocery store, so we'll see how that goes. And also, how can we help each other to live more fully? Yes, I know we aren't traveling and getting out, so this is a picture that may not be appropriate, but they say, Carl and I, my partner who I live with, on Sundays, we're still going into different parts of the state and hiking. We're finding fairly remote places where there aren't anybody. We went out this past Sunday. It was beautiful up by this river that only runs a few times a year. And there was different animal tracks in the mud, and we didn't see anyone until we nearly got back to our car. So remember that life doesn't give us hugs. We must hug each other, even if it's virtually. So I want to share that, as I wrap this up, that we can, even though of course I encourage you to find a well-trained coach to help you get through this time, but we can coach each other by listening to our stories, reflecting what you hear and see. So here's what I hear you saying, and here's what I see you're most afraid about, and when you got really quiet. So reflecting helps people to truly, again, hold out their stories and look at them so they can actually see them externally and know what is it, the beliefs that aren't supporting them and their assumptions about the future that they're making up. Use their words, share what you notice. Don't add in your opinions or judgments, just offer it back. And then ask if they're willing to catch and shift where there's tightness in their body. What emotion do they want to feel instead? What's the story? How do they want to end their story today? At the end today, what do they want to be saying? This is how we help shift and coach the person, not the problem, to help them see their possibilities differently. So again, I'm not saying that we're making it up. We're just being able to expand our perception. And this you can use in all parts of people's lives, in their relationships, their own personal development, their health, their money. I want to say that I lived for decades with what was an incurable virus, which they finally cured. And I'm so healthy right now, even as I'm about to get Medicare. And so I know that whatever they say is not curable today will be curable tomorrow. And we have to keep with those stories, and that what goes down will come up, and we're here to help each other. So what are the stories, and how can we help each other as we walk down the street to truly see each other? Psychologist Brock Hansen said, I can walk down the street thinking about myself, my hopelessness of it all, staring at the sidewalk and sighing to myself. Or I can walk down the street grateful for the diversity of people I get to share the sidewalk with, silently wishing them good health and good fortune and smiling at each person I meet. The latter is more fun, even though I sometimes have to remind myself to do it on purpose. So be present in the moment, make your choices. That's what I want for you today. That's my call for action. And hopefully, if you're up for it, my books have some good tips. Coach the Person isn't out yet, but if you sign up on my website, I'm going to start sending all kinds of tools and tips and bonuses to help us get through this time.
Thank you so much, Marcia. And, we do have a few more minutes this afternoon, this morning, if you're on the West Coast or in a different time zone, I guess, or around the world. So if you have any comments or questions, I would love to know what you're taking away from today's call. You know, what's one action step that you can implement from Marcia's great recommendations to help you stay, you know, more focused and positive during these challenging times. So feel free to put that in the chat. And Erica is going to share with you Marcia's website and some links to where you can pre-order her new book. So I'm happy to take any questions or comments. As we wrap up today, I want to remind you that we will be back tomorrow, but tomorrow's session is a little bit different in that it is an hour-long webinar that was previously scheduled, and that one does require a unique registration. So I shared it this morning, I'll share it again tomorrow morning, the link to sign up for tomorrow's full hour webinar with Rich Brandt from the RDR group. And so thanks to those of you who joined today, and I hope you'll join us again tomorrow. A few comments here and a question. So Helen is wondering, Marcia, what is one sentence that will help me change my perspective? Do you have any one powerful sentence that you could share today?
You know, when I work with coaches, I always say, remember that mastery is the deepening of presence, not the perfection of skills. So the best thing we can do is to be just totally present to what is the world around us, not what's out there or being stuck in the future, but what's the beauty in this moment, and how can I be present and make my best choices?
That's really helpful. So again, I encourage you to check out all that Marcia is doing with her new book coming. And just a quick plug for my company, Weaving Influence. I lost my script. I probably know it by heart anyway. You know, Weaving Influence specializes in providing digital marketing support to authors, thought leaders, and training and consulting companies. And we also serve nonprofits and other purpose-driven organizations. So I want to give you an open invitation. If there's anything my team or I can do to support you during these challenges, that you can also email me. I'm Becky at weavinginfluence.com, and I'll be back with you again tomorrow with a full-length webinar with Rich Brandt on customer service. So thank you, Marcia, and I will let you have the final words for today.
Well, somebody said, what's fun going on in quarantine? You know, there's so much fun that we can find. There's so many games we can play with each other, even if it's virtually. And we'll look at pictures and funny videos. And, you know, people are posting all kinds of things that will make us smile. And remember that smiling activates our immune system. So go laugh, go smile. It'll keep you healthy.
Thanks.